that. As always, if this isn't your thing, if you don't want to listen to me talk for a while, that's totally okay. I don't know the difference if you mute me and listen to something else in a different tab. Personally, I listened to a light academia playlist while I was building this, which really got the mood going. So I will suggest that if you are gonna hop around a bit. But this is a little cottage that I'm building. I really wanted to do something springy. Where I am, it actually snowed while I was building this, which is unfortunate. It should be, I don't know, it's a weird time where it'll rain and then it snows and it's not spring anymore. So I was feeling really like I needed some spring here. So I thought maybe, I don't know, like a green witch would live here. Someone who grows a lot of herbs and does like rituals and stuff with them and just likes to be connected to the land. I wish I knew more about this so I could speak maybe more eloquently about it, but I did see The Green Witch as a book at my local place, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. So we're starting here. I am using just the base game and Cottage Living because I wanted this to be something that a lot of people could download if they wanted to. I think I have like an impulse buy problem with The Sims, so I have a lot of the expansion packs and stuff, and I know not a lot of people do. So hopefully this makes it a little bit more accessible because I really like it. Yeah, I was thinking, like, while I'm talking about this, and like while I was building it, I was thinking a lot about just my own home garden and what I want to do with it this year. Every year I add a couple raised beds in the backyard, which is nice, and it's been cool to learn how to grow food and then eat it. I think I really kind of took it for granted how long it takes for food to actually grow and the energy and the time that goes into that. So I appreciate my food a lot more when I do grow it, I think. I have most of my seeds from a place called Seed Savers Exchange. It's in Iowa, and it's a place where they collect a bunch of heirloom seeds for like fruits, vegetables, flowers. So they're these really interesting varieties of plants that families have just cultivated over generations, and normally like those plants would be lost to history if the families didn't share the seeds, but thankfully they do. So they save the seeds at Seed Savers and propagate them so that like not only can people come to the actual organization and try the food and look at the flowers, but they can have the seeds at home for themselves. So a couple years ago, my husband and I drove to Decorah, Iowa, which is where Seed Savers is, and we got to actually see how everything was put together. And we went to a cooking class that used a bunch of these interesting varieties of vegetables that like we've had before. Like we've had the vegetables, but not these varieties, and it was just such an interesting experience. Super gorgeous, a lot of flowers I'd never seen before, so really enjoyed that. Transitioning back to the build here, at this point I'm putting things on the roof, and I had this idea, like when I started I knew I wanted to try it, but I had no idea if this was going to work. So you can't see it obviously, but as I'm playing it right now, like if you could see my face, I was just ecstatic. I was so excited that this worked. I didn't think it would work. And so then started the tedium of putting all this grass up there. But I'm so happy with how it turned out. Anyway, so going back to Seed Savers, I'm going all over the place here. But we stayed at a bed and breakfast, well, an Airbnb, so an air bed and breakfast. that was an alpaca farm, and we stayed in a little tiny cottage thing that I actually kind of want to build sometime because it was really cool. But there were like dozens of alpacas just walking around, and we got to pet them, and it was just the coolest thing ever. The owners were pretty nice too. We had a fire with them, and they just talked to us about alpacas and the land, and they ended up like getting a Victorian house from somewhere else in the state in a small town. And I don't know how you do this, but they just loaded it up. They like picked it up off the ground and drove it to their current farm. And so there's this really interesting Victorian house in the middle of this alpaca farm. And the house came from a small town, so I mean, they shut down school, and like they had to take down the power lines and everything to get this house driven out of there. It was a whole event. People really wanted to see it. So I guess that's an option if you ever want a Victorian house and you're in a space where they don't exist. Just go to another place and pick one up and move it. It's just like The Sims. So in here we're starting to get into the inside of the cottage. I didn't know what I was doing here. I was just giving it a try. A lot of these rooms I didn't think would be functional, but I was trying to get the fireplaces to line up with where the actual chimneys are, because sometimes I'll just put the fireplaces wherever is convenient for me and not necessarily what makes sense for the house. So I'm trying to be a little bit better about that. I was also trying to make it so that it looked good from the outside. It's not always, I don't know, I feel like I get so caught up on working on the outside and then the inside that one of them tends to look weird when I'm done. So I'm trying to do it more together now, switching back and forth between what does the outside look like, what does the inside look like, just so that the whole thing is cohesive at the end and I don't have to undo a lot of work. So yeah, man, I love that roof. It's so cool. On another trip that we went on, there was oh gosh, what was it? I think it was a restaurant or like a bar. Maybe it was a bed and breakfast. I don't know. But it had a grassy roof, kind of like this, but it was completely flat. And they had goats living on top. And the goats would just eat the grass and like peer down at patrons and visitors because it was their domain. I don't know, they ruled over it. They ruled the land. They just looked like kings. It was amazing. I think about that a lot too. Yeah, okay, so here we are getting to more of the final shape of what the house is going to be. I think at this point, I was wanting it to get too big, just to make it easier on myself to like put furniture in, but I think at this point I accepted that it was going to be a small cottage like I wanted, and that would also mean having less furniture and less room for stuff. So I'm happy that happened. Oh, that like wisteria going up the chimney, that was kind of an accident how it twirled around like that. It was a misclick, and then it looked really cool. So I'm glad that worked out. Here I wasn't sure what I was going to do with the bed. I don't know. I always want two people to be able to get in the bed, but I don't know. I figured if someone was living here alone, they would also have like a big bed, but they could have it pushed against the wall and sleep that way. If people want to move things around, they totally can, but that's just the narrative I was going for right now, and because I didn't want to change this room anymore for all the reasons I was just talking about. But yeah, it's starting to come together here. I don't like those curtains. I'm glad I got rid of those. Yeah, I'm just in love with this house, you guys. I'm watching, just like you are, losing my train of thought. man, it's really cool. So speaking of hoofed animals that live in cool places, like the alpacas and the goats on the roof, I've been thinking a lot about the sheep in Iceland. Also very cool hoofed animals that I am obsessed with. Again, my husband and I, we go on so many trips. I talk about my husband all the time. I'm such a simp. But we went to Iceland for our honeymoon, and I didn't know this before I went, and I didn't know it until I was there for a while, but there's sheep everywhere. Like, I knew there were tons of sheep in New Zealand. Like, I heard that there's more sheep than people. Like, that's one of the fun facts that I love, but I didn't know that about Iceland. I don't know if there's more sheep than people, but there's tons of sheep, and they are everywhere. Like, we were driving in the Highlands, which is the really tall, hilly, rocky areas where, like, they're not mountains, but they're really tall hills that go up almost into the clouds. I think the clouds are really low, though, because it was super rainy. But we would be driving around, and you'd see these little white specks on top of the hills, like a mile up. And they were sheep. They're everywhere. They cross the roads. They're, like, walking by the cars. We went to some natural hot springs, and there was a little sheep who just kind of walked up and wanted to steam their face, like it was a sauna or a spa, gonna get ready for a facial. But it was really cool, and I decided to Google it because I was like, why are all these sheep here? Why aren't they in farms? Like, there's no... Well, there's a few that we saw, but most of the sheep are just roaming free with no pastures, no, like, visible farms anywhere. So I was really confused. And it turns out that culturally, the Icelandic people for, I think, hundreds and hundreds of years have just let their sheep roam. I don't know, I saw a lot of stickers while I was there that said, like, free-range sheep since 800 something. So that's my inference. But I do know for sure that nowadays the farmers just let their sheep roam the entire country, wherever they want to go, wherever the sheep feel like going. And then once a year, there's a holiday where the farmers, tourists, anyone else who wants to help rounds up all of the sheep that they can find across the entire country, and then they sort them to go back to their respective homes. So they're, like, tagged and stuff like that, so you know where they're supposed to go. But there's so many sheep, and then they get sheared for wool, because there's a ton of, a lot of yarn and wool stuff there in Iceland, because there's tons of sheep. And then some of them also get butchered, I think, which is not my favorite. I'm vegetarian, so I didn't like that part. I was really into the sheep. But yeah, I thought that was really cool. And I was thinking, like, in another life, if I were maybe, I don't know, a writer for Pixar or something, that would be such a cool story for, like, a Pixar movie where it's like the found family trope where the black sheep of the family, literally or just metaphorically, I'm not sure yet, don't fit in with their families at their home farms, and they go off on this grand adventure far away from home, and they find other misfit sheeps, and they become a found family together. Like, friends are the family that you choose, right? So they all become a unit, and they go on adventures, and then the climax of the movie is when it's this holiday, and all the sheep have to be rounded up and brought back to their homes, and none of the sheep want that in this particular scene. And so they go to these extraordinary lengths to not get found. Like, they're hiding from all the farmers and the tourists, and somehow they end up creating their own farm or, like, community with or without farmers. I think My gut is telling me without farmers. I kind of want them to just like keep living by themselves and living their best life. I don't know, there's tons of waterfalls, so I imagined like some kind of oasis, like a sheep oasis, and they have a whole community there that they created themselves. And that's the end of the movie. And there could be sequels. I think there is room there for some sequels. Like, I think it could be a whole franchise, honestly. It could be the next Frozen, and everyone will wear sheep apparel, which I would love. I loved the sheep so much. I love this tattoo. I got a huge tattoo of a sheep on my leg, an Icelandic sheep, and it turned out amazing, but they captured my heart, they captured my imagination. I love them so much. I want to have sheep now that I'm back in the US, because apparently you can have them, I think, in some suburbs, and they'll like eat your grass and stuff, and I would love that. It'd be really cool to have a sheep. Wow, I completely forgot that this was the video of the build. So I think the bathroom's done at this point. This is the kitchen. No sheep in the kitchen, but we wish there were. At the end of the build, I was gonna build like a pasture or something, because on Cottage Living you can have alpacas and stuff. That's why I started talking about alpacas, because you can have alpacas in this expansion pack. It ended up like not matching the house, so I didn't really want to add it, but I think if I were to actually play in this house, I would probably get one of the stables. Is it a stable? A barn? I don't know what they call it. Clearly I don't like sheep that much if I don't know anything about how to keep them or any other related animals. I just think they're really cute. But yeah, I think if I was actually playing in this house, I would add some more stuff to have animals. I did play test it a little bit. I tried a new way of taking pictures this time where I do live mode or live mode. I don't know how you say that. And the pictures are way better because you can get closer to like eye level instead of having this kind of weird aerial view. But it was raining because I have seasons, the seasons expansion pack. Like, of course, when I want to take pictures, it's raining. So I just had my sim kind of go on autopilot for 2 days until it stopped raining and I could take pictures. And during that time, she was able to use all of this stuff and do her thing. So I think it works, which is really great to know. Like, sometimes I've made builds and I'm like, oh, this is so cool. This is going to be awesome. And then I actually play with it and I can't use any of the stuff because my sims can't move around, or like things are blocked and I don't think they are. Like, I look at stuff and I'm like, I could fit through there. But a sim looks at that and they're like, I don't know what you want me to do, buddy. Like, I can't move there. Oh, I started adding a bunch of candles because I don't know, I was on Witch Talk, like the TikTok for witches for a little bit, and there's some people in my yoga class who are into witchy stuff. So what I know about this is limited to that, but I think candles are a pretty big deal. So I wanted to have some candles here I don't know, I was thinking like maybe whoever lives here uses them to do rituals with herbs and stuff. And candles are just nice to have around. I like having them on the ground. I think I didn't playtest lighting those candles by the curtains or the plants. I don't know if it would start a fire or not. I had the wellness expansion pack, and you can do incense there, and I've set so many houses on fire because I try to put the incense in cool, out of the way places, like on top of the fridge or something, and it just burns my house down. And I was like, it's just smoke. Like, why is this burning the house down and not something else? Like, why is this thing that's bringing me joy ruining it for everybody? The answer is I don't know. Okay, here we are going back to putting grass on the roof. I put it aside for a little bit because it was getting a little bit tedious to place all of the tufts of grass, especially I was trying to look at like how do you maybe tilt the grass in space so I could make it curve with the roof, but I didn't research very long, and what I did find was you need some mods that I didn't want to download and restart the game and, I don't know, potentially like mess up my game doing. Because I've done some, I don't know. At a time in my life, I downloaded so many mods on The Sims that it was unplayable, and I'm really nervous to go back to that. So instead I just opted for putting the grass like halfway into the roof, very gradually going down so that there was kind of a taper. And I kind of like that more actually because it's not so dense at the edges. It looks like it's actually maybe growing naturally instead of it being like, here is a huge circle of grass. So it worked out well, but it was a lot of work. And I wasn't sure, like as I was doing this, it was one of those things where I was like, I think this looks really awesome, but am I going to open this tomorrow and be like, this is way too much stuff going on, what are you thinking? But it is the next day, and I'm looking at this, and I like it. I don't think it's too much. I think it's a lot, but it's not overwhelming to me. I think if I had added maybe more variety of plants, it would have felt like too much. But I tried to stick with the same kind of color palette and the same, I don't know, couple flowers or plants that are into this, so everything would kind of go together. I am not sure, still not sure how to do terrain in The Sims super well. I kept trying to look at what is around it so that I could maybe get it to match as best as I could, but I bulldozed a lot while I was here. You probably have it if you have Cottage Living. There's like 2 older gentlemen who live here, I think. They were very sweet, and I took them out so I could bulldoze their entire lot. But they had really nice landscaping, and I wonder if it's like, I don't know, maybe I should add like more hills and stuff next time, but I don't know, I should just like maybe do a study of some of these houses that are pre-built on The Sims. Like artists will sometimes do a study of some artist that they really like so they can figure out like how they actually can recreate the things that they like about it, and you can more appreciate like the work and the details in the piece that you do like. So I kind of want to do that. Okay, now we're talking. We're getting to yeah, I really like how this turned out. It's super cute to play in, especially in live mode. I was just blown away by how this actually looks in real gameplay. Super cool. Well, thank you so much for watching, sticking around. You should look up Icelandic sheep and live your best life and enjoy the rest of your day. I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.